Hello darlings, happy Thursday. I had an amazing strength training session this morning and I thought I would come on here and share some of the benefits of strength training or resistance training in perimenopause and menopause. But what do I mean by strength training or resistance training? All it means is either using your body weight or other weights, be it dumbbells, kettlebells, you know, all the kind of machines at the gym that have got weights on to train with. It can mean kind of push-ups or squats without a weight. That's all that means. But before I jump into those benefits, I thought I would share a little bit about my own journey with exercise, because it has been very up and down in my life, and kind of where I have got to with it now. Oh gosh, didn't mean to swear then. Couldn't get those words out of my mouth. So I was always a pretty active child. I did something every night after school, captain the netball team, tennis, athletics. I was always game. I was never particularly amazing. I was all right netball, I was all right tennis, but I loved it. I was always doing something. And I've learned recently actually that if you are very active as a child, it really helps with your bone density in later life, and that is one of my markers that I never have a problem with. My bone density is really good, really high. I know we're all past childhood, but if you have children, encourage them to move, as I am sure you do. It doesn't have to be sport, dancing around the kitchen, you know, going on walks. All of these things are really, really helpful. And bone density is particularly important in perimenopause and menopause because it declines, and it really drastically declines after 35. And poor bone density leads to things like osteopenia, osteoporosis, and it can kind of increase the risk of falls and fractures, which we don't want, obviously. So all was good as a child. I carried on playing netball when I was a young lawyer. I played netball in the Young Professionals League, which I'm sure they can't get away with calling it that now. Was fairly active before I had the children. Then the children came along and everything fell off a cliff, as I'm sure lots of mummies can empathise with. I did a lot of walking. We didn't have a car for the first 4 years of living in Switzerland. So I walked everywhere, pushed 2 children under 2 in a pram, I carried them, I did lots of baby wearing. So I was always walking, which is great exercise. So I did that, but didn't do much else, I'm not gonna lie. And then when I was about, I want to say 36, so 6 years ago, I found yoga. Yoga was something, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, yoga was something earlier in my life that I could never get on with. I was always so busy in my mind that I just could not get on with yoga at all. But when I found it again later on in life, it was my absolute saviour. I think I mentioned in one of the other videos, I read a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it explained to me how trauma can get trapped in your body, and yoga is one of the ways that you can release trapped trauma. So it was a hugely therapeutic tool for me. So kind of from 36 onwards, my main form of exercise was yoga, which is incredible. It's incredible exercise. Then we moved back to England when I was 40. And because I used to play tennis for my town when I was a youngster, I said to Mr. Ridley, I am joining a tennis club when we move back to England, which I duly did. I'm now social secretary with my mummy, which I love. We're hosting an event on Friday, which I'm very excited about. And I love it. So I started playing tennis. And I also, when I moved back to England, I started seeing a PT once a week with my friend. Now, PTs are really expensive. My PT is £50 an hour, but because there were 2 of us going, it split the cost, so it's £25 an hour. I know that's still an investment, but I see spending money on my health as an investment, and there is nothing more important to me than health. So that is where I choose to spend. our money. We spend a huge amount on really high quality ingredients for food. We spend a big chunk of money on sports and gyms and things like that. So I did my PT once a week. I did tennis once a week and tennis cardio after that. So that was like a 2-hour session. And I walked Rocket 30 to 60 minutes a day, gently, because he is lazy and he is not an athletic boy. So that's basically all I did. But when I hit 41, my weight just started going up and up and up. And as you know, I tried so many different things, so many different ways of eating. I also tried intermittent fasting, but sensibly, according to my cycle, I did some very long fasts. That probably wasn't right for me at the time. I tried different styles of eating. One of the styles of eating that I tried suggested that you really go easy on the exercise. And it's something that I hadn't really thought about before, because if you do long bouts of cardio exercise, it can increase your cortisol. Now, if like me, you've lived a massive part of your life in fight or flight, I really don't want more cortisol. And also, when you hit perimenopause, which I think I have, your sex hormones are all over the show, but your progesterone is dropping. Your progesterone is kind of a very calming hormone. So you find that things start to get more overwhelming and your cortisol levels can rise, your insulin levels can rise. It's all a very fine balance. The minute kind of one goes out of balance, the others can as well. So this particular eating regime that I was following suggested no cardio or very light cardio, like some light yoga, some light walking, but not so you got out of breath, and not to exceed 30 minutes. So for the period I was kind of following this eating regime, it sounds a bit daft, but I think I got a bit scared of exercise because I was so worried that my cortisol was doing this. And when our cortisol's high, our body is in stress mode, so it kind of holds on to fat. It almost thinks like, there's danger, we kind of go into starvation mode even though we're not starving, and it holds on to fat. So I was really worried about that, so I stopped my tennis. I kept going to my PT because my PT session is mainly strength training, it's not cardio. But yeah, I got a little bit scared of exercise, so I kind of stopped it for ages, and that just wasn't working for me. I knew I had to do something different, and I listened to so many amazing women, female doctors, female naturopaths, people who specialise in women's health, particularly in perimenopause and menopause, and they all say you have to lift, and you have to lift heavy. One of my good friends, Anushka, if she's watching, she got me onto a lady called Dr. Stacey Sims, yeah, and she says two things. She said, women are not small men. Love that. So we shouldn't be following advice for men because we are biologically, from a soul perspective, psychologically, we are completely different to men. So we shouldn't be following men's advice. And she says lift heavy. They're two really, really important things. So I knew that I had to do more than just my one PT session a week. And something just clicked inside me a couple of weeks ago where I said I have to do more. So I have been trying to fit in 4 strength sessions, and I had a trial session at a new gym this morning, which was brilliant. So that's where I am at the minute, and already I have noticed a massive difference with energy levels. I have some amazing body composition scales in. I've always been very anti weighing myself. I don't know how healthy that is for some people, and particularly if you have disordered eating or difficult relationship with your weight. I don't know how helpful that is, but I got these scales absolutely ages ago, didn't really use them. And now I find them really, really useful because they tell me my body composition, which means it tells me how much fat my body has. It tells me what my muscle mass is, and that's far more important to me than my weight. My weight's okay. I've always maintained a fairly BMI normal range. I did go slightly over at certain points last year, but what's concerned me more is that I know my fat levels are too high, particularly my belly fat. I've always had a problem with belly fat, and I think that's because, you know, like I said, I lived a good chunk of my life in fight or flight until I sorted that out. So I know I need to get that down, and I know, you know, healthy ranges of that. I'm not yet still within that healthy range. So these body composition scales, they're called Withings. I have to get the exact name for you, but it's the Withings range, and they're really, really good. They were about £100. Yeah, so this is the place that I have come to with exercise now, where I want strength training to be the basis of my exercise regime. I'll still be walking Rocket every day, a gentle stroll, 30 minutes. So we'll be getting some exercise, but strength is going to form the basis of my exercise. I also wanted to say, before we dive into the benefits of strength training, is that you've probably heard a phrase, you cannot out-train a bad diet. And I still 100% stand by that. You can do all the training in the world, and if you are shoving junk food, processed food, loads of carbs in your mouth, you are not going to be a healthy person. So always keep that in mind. And I think I had been over relying on that and going, well, my diet's great, so exercise isn't that important. But when we hit perimenopause, or at any stage of life, that just isn't the case. You really, really need to focus on strength training, weightlifting, and I'm going to dive into some of those benefits now. So number one, strength training preserves muscle mass. Cardio cannot do this. Strength training, weight training is the only type of exercise that builds muscle. And in perimenopause, our estrogen, well, it's going on a merry ride, but over time, estrogen is declining. And a decline in estrogen reduces your muscle mass. So it's really, really important to build it up via strength training. Number two, strength training boosts your metabolism. So the more muscles we have, the more calories are burned at rest. That sounds quite scientific, but your muscles are an organ and they suck up glucose. Again, in perimenopause, our metabolism is slowing down, which means you're probably finding that you know, if you're eating the same foods that you ate 10 years ago, you might be seeing changes in your weight or changes in your body composition. Cardio, conversely, if it's overdone, can lead to muscle loss. So you do need to be careful with the cardio. Number three, we've already alluded to this, strength training protects your bones. Bone density drastically declines after 35. Cardio, like walking and running, can help with bone density, but it's not as targeted or as effective as weightlifting. Number four, we kind of alluded to this as well. It balances out your hormones. So lifting weights can help to regulate things like insulin, cortisol, and other hormones, which help to kind of stabilize your mood and stabilize your weight and energy levels. Number five, and I think this is where people can find it hard to get their head around, strength training is more effective at fat loss, especially fat loss around your belly, the visceral fat, which is the fat that's on your belly and around your organs. That is better than cardio. And I think a lot of people grow up thinking, oh my goodness, if I want to lose weight, I have to do loads of cardio. But like I said, lots of cardio can spike cortisol and cause your body to cling on to fat. So that is something to be aware of. And during menopause, you probably all heard of the horrible phrase, I hate this phrase, menobelly. It's common for us as women to store our fat around our belly during menopause, sadly. Number six, the strength training causes less stress on the body. If done in the right way, You know, if you know what you're doing, if you have a trainer to show you what you're doing, you might only need a trainer one time, and then just so that you're not overexerting your muscles or pulling a muscle, which is obviously going to lead to inflammation, which nobody wants. It causes less stress on the adrenals. It doesn't raise cortisol in the same way that something like HIIT or long duration cardio can. And finally, like I mentioned, strength training causes a better body composition. So for example, over these past week or so, when I have been increasing my strength training quite dramatically compared to normal, my weight hasn't changed so much. Some days it goes up a little bit, but my body composition is changing. My fat is going down and my muscle mass is going up, and that's happened quite quickly. I was quite shocked by how drastically that is changing, so that's given me a real boost to kind of carry on with the strength training. I don't want to put anybody off cardio. Like some cardio, like walking, dancing, cycling, swimming to a certain extent, it's still got loads of benefits for your heart, benefits for kind of lymph, because if you're sweating, that helps with your lymph and getting rid of lots of toxins. But it's just to be mindful that we're not doing too much cardio. So I've kind of been doing a little bit of research on what's considered kind of an optimal exercise regime. And if this all sounds overwhelming, please don't worry. If you were like me a few years ago and doing very little other than a bit of yoga, then this will seem overwhelming. You start somewhere. You start with one weight, 1 day a week, and you build up. You're not going to get to here from zero. So they kind of say strength training 2 to 4 times a week, ideally, and this should be like the foundation of your routine. If you're going to miss any exercise days, don't miss your strength training, miss the cardio. You can add in some low impact cardio. You know, walking every day is great. If you can, if you've got a little dog, that's really good. Go for a stroll at lunchtime. You don't have to get out of breath. Just low impact. Yeah, walking, dancing, swimming, 3 to 5 times a week. 30 minutes. Don't need to do any more than that. If you want to, this is optional. You could do HIIT or metabolic conditioning 1 to 2 times a week. Certain things that I read said once a week is really fine, and I know lots of people really push HIIT, and that might be fine at other times in your life, and I've definitely found this for me. I think during menopause and perimenopause it can put too much stress on the body, so you might want to limit that to 1 if you're not used to it. And then something that's obviously suggested daily, stretching daily, 5 to 10 minutes. I try and do 10 minutes of yoga. There are so many videos on YouTube. I find that so helpful. I do it first thing in the morning to help get rid of anything from sleep, because when we sleep it's a very healing time, and I think spiritually, emotionally, I think it's a great time to get rid of stuff, particularly if we've had a funny dream. It's really good for obviously our joints, to keep kind of mobile and flexible. So, you know, 5 to 10 minutes of stretching. And I always used to think, if I'm doing something for 5 minutes, it's not going to make a scrap of difference. And I completely disagree with that now. Like when I go through periods of not doing my 10 minutes of yoga, I really, really notice it. Like particularly in my hips, I think I store a lot of emotions in my hips, and my hip flexors get really clicky and not very nice if I don't do that. And this kind of, so having this basis of strength training 2 to 4 times a week, having some light cardio, you know, some heavy cardio like HIIT once a week maybe, and then stretching, is supposed to have lots of benefits. It kind of respects hormonal sensitivity in perimenopause and menopause, like we've said. It maintains lean muscle and bone density. It boosts metabolism without burning out your adrenals, which lots of cardio can. It supports your nervous system, it supports your sleep, and it supports your mood. We've gone a little bit over 15 minutes today. We're nearly at 20 minutes. I'm so sorry. I hope you found that helpful. Yeah, I feel really, really great this week after, you know, really upping my strength training. And if you've never done it and you can never see yourself being in a gym, just give it a go. I actually found 2 really great free videos from Joe Wicks. I think he's got a whole series on his app specifically for perimenopause and menopause. But he's got 2 free ones on his YouTube channel. If you just type in menopause, Joe Wicks. It's not HIIT, because I know Joe is very big on HIIT. These are like 10 strength training exercises where you need some dumbbells, which you can pick up relatively inexpensively. So if you are completely new to strength training, don't want to join a gym, are very intimidated by a gym, you might want to start there. All right, my darlings, wishing you a lovely evening. Mwah. I've done it again. I thought of something else that I wanted to say after I've done the video. Hey ho. Whenever we're talking about exercise, I think it's always really important to be mindful of where we are in our cycle. So when we bleed, next to no exercise, very, very acceptable to rest, have a nap, maybe some light yoga, some yoga nidra, nothing heavy, no sweaty yoga. Luteal phase, strength training is absolutely perfect. I wouldn't be doing any HIIT or any drastic cardio during the luteal phase. If you want to, and it's a big if you want to do something like a HIIT session or some more in-depth cardio, you reserve that for your follicular phase and your ovulatory phase. Forget it after you've ovulated and during your bleed. That's all I want to say.